All right. So we talked about being product focused and what that looks like. Now we're going to start moving up the value chain and start talking about another perspective, another level of selling, and this is selling health. Okay. Now, selling health is basically, it can be summed up in green cleaning. Now, I want to make something very clear. Green cleaning doesn't necessarily mean you have to have green products. Okay. What it means is that you have your processes. Yes, the green products help, but it's not the end all to be all, right? So we're talking about green cleaning is about the process that's being used, the systems in place, the products. Yes, they help. They have green seal certified or what have you. They help, but that's not what a lot of buildings get green certified, LEED certified as an example that don't have green products. So we want to recognize that we're talking about selling health, not the products. Okay, not green seal. Now those are included, they help, but that's not what we're talking about from a big picture. So what we do know is that when we're talking about getting certified, when we do talk about products, we're talking about green seal, we're talking about eco logo, we're talking about green guard, certified green products, and we're going to get into those a little bit later, but those are basically the three primary certifications that come with products. Now, most manufacturers focus on environmental choice. Okay, when their products can't become environmental choice because they don't meet the criteria, then they'll slap a green seal label on it usually. And Green Guard is more about the indoor air quality omitted from the products, as opposed to Green Seal and Eco Logo is products only. But so certification has a role, but it's not the whole process of cleaning for health is not based solely on whether or not you have a green sticker on your product. Okay. But Green Seal was established in 1989. It's American based, and as I said, a lot of manufacturers have gotten away from there because they really charge a lot to get products certified, and their criteria are not as tight and as stringent as other supplier certifications like environmental choice. Now, environmental choice started as by the Canadian government, and it is now universal, and so it's now part of UL and Unilever. So it is a very stricter certification. It doesn't cost nearly as much to get products certified from environmental choice, and most manufacturers have gone to this. And as I said, if they have a green seal sticker on it, it usually means that it's because it didn't meet the environmental choice certification. And Green Guard is third party certified, which is not based on product, it's based on the omittance of the product into the air of the facility. So as an example, things that go outside of the products on this is things like varnish on desks, things like that. What do they omit into the air? So Green Guard is really about the indoor air quality. Green Seal and Eco Logo is about the product itself, and it's certifying that product, and that particular product has, meets this criteria. Whereas Green Guard is all these products meet a criteria from environmentally, from indoor air quality. The Green Seal Eco Logo is more about what it does to the environment. So those are kind of the differences. But the certification plays a role, but you can still clean for health without having certified products. Now, let's start looking at what it means to be health focused or green focused. Okay. So we talk about odor, right? Dilution rates, packaging. Now, that was product focused. Now, again, these things have their place. So odor has its place when you're selling for green and selling for health. Dilution rates has its place. Packaging size has its place. But it's not the thing you're leading with. It's something that is like, oh, it's an added benefit. Kind of like at the end of the sale, kind of like, do you want a backup camera on your car, right? It's not the reason you're buying the car, but hey, it's a nice add-on. And so yes, whatever. It's an added feature. Where we want to focus on when you're selling for health is number one is you want to focus on pH. We spoke about pH earlier, but you want to focus on pH. So let's discuss this for a second. When you have green certified products, again, you can be a green building and health building without green certified products, but it does help. So green products, when they're eco logo certified, all fall into a category of 4 pH to 10 pH. Okay, 7 being neutral. So they fall between a 4 and a 10. So you might ask yourself, well, why is that important? What's the difference between being a 3 and an 11? Well, it has to do with reactivity. So when your product is between a 4 and a 10, and you take the 10 and you mix it with the 4, there is no reactivity. So that potential risk is eliminated. However, if they had a 12 pH product and a 2 and you mix those together, there would be some form of reactivity. And in some cases, it can be absolutely lethal and has killed people. So you want to be aware that, okay, you are now taking, you're looking at how do I bring health to this facility. And one of the ways I bring health to this facility is making sure that we eliminate the potential risk of reactivity. And in this case, we can use it on the products, right? Having a pH of 4 to 10. So again, if you mix them together, there's no chemical reactivity. You eliminate that risk. So that is something to be aware of. Now, if they are going to strip a floor, there's technology out now that can do a pretty good job with 10 pH strippers. But if they have years of buildup and stuff, you're going to have to go outside of this spectrum. They're going to have to use, a butyl-based stripper to remove the stuff off the floor. So there's always outliers within the program. However, having an efficient program that runs efficiently, you have green products that fall between the 4 and the 10 pH. Now, when we talk about that, let's talk about this for a second. So you are making a sales call, okay? And you notice that they have a product, okay, and they really like, let's just call it a general purpose cleaner, heavy duty cleaner, and they really, really like it, okay? So if you're product focused, you're going to sit back to that customer and you're going to say, oh, you like that product? Yes, I do. Oh, okay, well, we have a product that's similar. And they're going to go, oh, okay. And you go and you bring them a sample and they try it and they say, yeah, it works as good. What's your price, right? Or no, it doesn't work as good. My people prefer the other product. So now you have no opportunity. The other way is, what's your price? And you give them a quote. They say, yeah, no, it's a little cheaper, but it's not worth me making the change. Okay, where do you go from there? They have the product. Where are you going to go there? Because you don't want to sell improvement. Again, you don't want to try to sell them a product that's improving or going to be better than the product that they have. You want to have one that's going to be different. So in this particular case, if they're using a general purpose cleaner, you do your investigation, you do your research, and you identify that product is a 13 pH, let's say. So now you're selling health. You want to get them down to a 10. So you need to make sure that the product works for the job that they're doing. But in most cases, the 13 pH is probably overkill. It's probably a sledgehammer to kill a fly. They don't need that, right? But they need the product to work, but they also need the product to be safe. And they don't even recognize that they're potentially at risk for reactivity should someone drink the product, should someone like an Alzheimer's patient or a kindergarten student or someone that's just not thinking. Whereas you get them into the product that's a 10 pH, you're selling safety, and it's not just safety on the pH, it's 1,000 times safer. You're reducing their risk exposure by 1,000 times. So now the person that buys the products is having a hard time and going to have a hard time leaving that alone and ignoring it, knowing that there's that exposure. Okay. If all of a sudden a week later, 2 weeks later, someone actually got hurt with that 13 pH product and they knew that they were exposed to it, they could, potentially lose their job and have ramifications. So it's going to be very hard for them to ignore that. And it positions you as someone that's brought a new dimension to the sales process. They now recognize that, oh, I'm at risk here. I'm at risk of people getting sick, people getting hurt, my employees getting injured, right? So it's a different level sell. You're now selling the health. Now, they have to buy your product, but you don't focus on the product. You focus on the outcomes and the safety, and then therefore they buy it. The last thing you want to do is, when they start getting interested, is just focus on the product. You focus on the health, focus on the outcomes, focus on the safety, focus on reducing liability exposure. That is what is the sales process, the sales differentiator. A lot of salespeople, especially when they start doing this, they get interest and they get right out of the consultative sell, out of the insightful selling, and they get right into go right into product focus. And as soon as they go, oh, this is a product, I can probably get this product somewhere else. It's not worth me making this change. And they pick up the phone their incumbent. Hey, Bobby, do you have a product that's 10 pH? Whatever. That's what's going to happen. You have to keep the main thing, and the main thing is risk reduction, eliminating their exposure and their potential risk. So that's the difference. That's the difference. So as we mentioned, the difference between a 10 and a 13 is, and I don't know that these products both are 10 or 13. These slides are an example, is 1,000 times safer. Okay, so that is adding real value to the customer. Now, that risk exposure has a financial ramification to it, doesn't it? If someone gets hurt, goes on WCB, it's ramifications. If they get someone drinks the product, an Alzheimer's patient, and they die or get sick, there is liability issues there. There's all types of potential risks that they're exposed to. So them getting away from there and going to the 10 is just ethical and good business, but you need to bring that to them and guide them through the process. And so this is how you create opportunities. So you're now focused on the pH. Now, something else about it is you're focused on the outcomes is the LD50 count. Now, I was in the industry for many, 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 many years, maybe 10, 12, 15 years, maybe. Before I understood this, I was intimidated by the LD50 count. It was very technical sounding. I didn't really know what it meant, and I shied away from it. But what the LD50 count is it's, and most people don't even know what the LD50 count is of their products. But the LD50 count means lethal dose. The 50 refers to 50% of the people dying. So the case study is a 150-pound person. Right? And they obviously test it through lab animals, not on people, but they test it and they say, okay, what is the lethal dose where 50% of the people will die? Okay, so you take a 150-pound person as the example, and they say, okay, this much, this much, this much, and they keep going, and they go, no, this much. Okay, so that's what lethal dose means. Now, you got to remember, this is based on a 150-pound person. Now, a lot of people are lighter than 150 pounds. A kindergarten student might be 40 or 50 pounds. So it's even less of the lethal dose, right? But that's the guideline. So when you are talking about products, you can have green certified products that are 2 grams per body weight versus green products that are 5 grams per body weight. Now, I don't want to get too technical, but what does that mean? It means you need to do the research for your products and find the products that are safer, because the difference being is that it can be absolutely massive to the health of someone. So LD lethos is the amount of material given all at once, which causes the death of 50%, one half of a group of test animals. So we just talked about that. So what does that look like? What it looks like is if you can have a green seal product that has 2 grams per body weight. Okay, now this is terminology that can be confusing until you know what it means. You can digest more product before you die 50% of the time. Okay, so a lot of products are 2 grams per body weight, which means that you can have a teaspoon before you die 50% of the time, and it can be a green product, to repeat myself. So now imagine you have that green product. It's in a spray bottle. It's on the maid cart. It's blue. Something happens. The custodian has to run and help someone that's fallen or hurt themselves. They haven't locked that product. The Alzheimer's patient comes, sees the product, thinks it's Kool-Aid, drinks it. A kindergarten student, same thing. There's that exposure. All they need is a teaspoon to die 50% of the time if you're a 150-pound person. lethal dose, 5 grams per body weight, okay, is a liter. So 1 liter they would have to ingest. Okay. Now, I think you'll agree that it is plausible that someone could accidentally ingest a teaspoon of product. Unlikely, but it's plausible. It's extremely unlikely that anyone will drink a liter of product unless they're trying to do it on purpose and hurt themselves. So you eliminate that risk. The difference is that the product that is 1 liter, that you can consume 1 liter, is considered non-toxic. The other one is considered toxic. So now you are talking about absolute potential risk to the customer, right? You are eliminating their risk. You are looking for all the things that impact health to help eliminate the risk that they have to the health of the patrons, employees, and customers. So that's what we want to look at. So when we start looking at the 3 levels of selling, we've got product A, product B. We've got your product focused, right? Your odor and packaging and dilution rate. Okay. Then there's green focus, which is now you're focusing on green certification, and so you're differentiating your products. You're saying, well, they're green, they're safer, and people go, oh, that's safer, but they don't really know what safe means, right? It's a loose term, but it's safer. Great. Okay. Now you start focus on health and safety. That's where you start looking at the pH and moving them down so that they do the job, but it's a lot healthier and safer, and the LD50 count. So these are examples of things that you can do to differentiate yourself so that you can create an opportunity, not find, create, right? Finding an opportunity is asking them what's wrong. They say, oh, this isn't working. Creating is looking and saying, hey, and looking for opportunities here. And this is just one example. We'll get into more and more down the road in further segments. So that's something to pay attention to and to recognize. So now we have, we're moving up the ladder. We go from product focused to health focused. So now let's look at the next one, which is a different concept. It's a different level. And we're going to get into that in